Hi everyone, welcome to eShe TV. I'm Ekta Kapoor. Today we're going to talk about living mindfully, healing from trauma, and waking up to the true nature of suffering. To do that, we have with us immunologist, cancer survivor, and spiritualist, Dr. Monica Gulati. Hi Dr. Monica, welcome to
Hi,
eShe
Ekta.
TV.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, for our viewers, Dr. Monica Gulati was trained as an immunologist. She realized her calling was not scientific research while she was doing her PhD in autoimmunity at the University of Zurich. Her search in integrating science and spirituality drew her to many masters and towards holistic living and education. She got a wake up call through cancer in 2014. It brought her in touch with her own essence and revealed the true calling of her heart. She's now immersed deeply and fearlessly in all the movements of life and in sharing the messages that the inner being manifests through people, life situations, challenges, seeming tragedies, and diseases. The universe is for us and not against us, she says. Dr. Monica is the co-founder of livinglight.in, an organization that conducts private and group sessions to support simplicity, progress, and evolution in the human journey. So I'm so happy to have you here, Dr. Monica, and we have recently been in touch through the Nama Foundation, and I've heard you speak, and I'm very excited that you're going to be sharing your thoughts and your learnings with eShe viewers today. So let me start with the first question. It's a very obvious one. I think that you were trained in immunology and then later you became a spiritualist and began following Sri Aurobindo and Mother. So can you tell us about this shift in your journey from science to spirituality?
Yeah. So, actually, I was always interested in biology somehow by nature, and there was this calling towards wanting to know that how is science done outside of India. So that drew me to Zurich, University of Zurich, where my topic was autoimmune conditions like multiple sclerosis, myasthenia gravis, rheumatoid arthritis. And while we were studying these samples of patients, so we would be collaborating with the University of Zurich Hospital, and we would get from time to time these blood samples from patients. And we will do some research on finding out a possible cure for these diseases and why are they originating at the very first place. But somehow towards the end of my PhD, I was kind of disillusioned by this kind of science because it did not take into account the mental and emotional aspect of that patient that we are trying to figure out a cure for. So I was really like feeling a bit kind of hollow and empty, that why is this science not looking at those other parts of us which are always there when a disease is there. So that drew me to alternative education. Actually, I really found solace with Jiddu Krishnamurti and his teachings in wanting to see life, look at life in a different way, where mind and emotional being and understanding yourself also comes in the picture alongside. And thankfully, in 2014, after when I was pregnant with my second child, uh, I was gifted with cancer. And
Gosh,
I feel
what a way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, why is it as a gift? Because I feel that the questions I had in mind in trying to integrate the mental, emotional, and physical aspects of a being, I feel that was a very practical, raw example in front of me, that here, now you see, as if somebody is trying to tell me, now you will see how the mental and emotional aspects are one with the physical aspects. And that drew me further and further into this idea, and that we are not bits and pieces. The mind and body are very truly connected, and if we take care of the mind and work simply, live simply, it possibly, or not even possibly, it definitely has an effect on your disease and manifestations and the health of the body. So this is how I slowly was drawn, trying to integrate my own aspects of, yeah, as a human being.
So you're talking about cancer being like a teacher for you. Can you tell us more about how how it opened your eyes to your true purpose.
So I think as it happens with mostly specifically in Indian families, that the moment we get married, we don't know what we are buying into. you know, all the bouquet of relatives and all the obligations and roles and responsibilities that come upon your shoulders. Suddenly, from you're a daughter-in-law, and people have images. We don't even know, but we have images about how I should behave now. Now that I am a daughter-in-law, how I should be behaving. So we don't even realize, and unconsciously we take up these burdens upon ourselves. So now I am totally not a human being. I'm just focused on how I should be behaving as a role and responsibility. I think that really happened with me unconsciously. And since I was not really mindful of what was happening, not really aware of things going on in my being, it just happened, tuck, 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 one after the other. And suddenly I am finding my life really a bit suffocating. So earlier I was this really free fellow, not really tied to this and that, exploring my life in a way that I want to. And suddenly I am really tied to a role which nobody really tried me to tie. It was my own, I think that it was my unconsciousness that I allowed myself to get tied in these images in the head, that this is how I should be behaving and this is my role, this is my responsibility. So I feel that I suppressed the human being inside me because of that role. And we all know that no matter how good you try to please others, you can never ever satisfy that tummy. Neither can you satisfy yourself, and neither can you satisfy others. So it's very good if you come back home to yourself and stay truly deeply in touch with what's happening inside of you. So through cancer, I got to know that the mind was really scattered in the stories in the head. It was not home. It was not in the body. It was not in the present moment. I was so bonded to the images and stories in my head about my own self, and also about the situations and people, that it kind of scattered me away. Every moment I was not there, as if I'm just living in a dream all the time. So in that sense, I feel that the disease, because it's like fire in the house, what do I do so in trying to save yourself, somehow it helps the mind to come back to the body. So that's how it really acted like a gift for me.
So for other people, how do we know how to find our true purpose?
True purpose. So I think there are many images about what is my true purpose. One thing, in one way where I can simply put it forward, is just being truly ourselves is my true purpose. Now, when we say being truly ourselves, that also has many conceptions around it. That मैं तो ऐसी हूँ, I am like that only. This is how I behave, this is how I am, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. But that's not who we truly are. So who we truly are is actually our enlightened nature. So it's a very long journey, and lots of efforts, personal efforts, need to be put before we become truly ourselves. It seems like a paradox, because usually we identify so much with our behavior, and this is how I am, this is what I feel like, this is what my likings are. So we identify too much with that surface nature, and we think that this is who I am. Am I not being truly myself? Right? But that's not who we truly are. So to disidentify from the surface consciousness, which is the coming and going of thoughts, coming and going of feelings, coming and going of opinions in the head, and to deeply identify with this presence of awareness that is always there, through which I know a thought, I know a feeling, I know a bodily sense perception. This knowing aspect in us is our true being. So when we say how to wake up to our true purpose, I think this is how we wake up to our true purpose, disidentifying from the surface consciousness. I'm not the thought, not the feeling, because they come and go, come and go, come and go. What remains is this presence of awareness. And I am this presence of awareness. But again, I feel easier said than done. This is a I think this takes really long time, so that we can stabilize ourselves fully as the presence of awareness, not getting tied to the fleeting emotions and thoughts. So that's how I would say we wake up to our true purpose.
So you're talking about the thoughts, how we get carried away with our thoughts, and our what our thoughts tell us that what we are, but it's not necessarily our thoughts that are um, that could be telling us the true nature of because the mind itself, like you said, is always changing. What have you learned about the nature of the mind and the effect of the thoughts on our bodies, because you've been through that process of physical healing as well, and how are you doing now, by the way?
So how am I doing now?
Yeah, in terms of your
if you
yeah,
if you
in terms
talk
of
about,
understanding your how the mind has affected your body.
okay. So when people ask me, are you in remission, I say I don't know. Because I really don't know. The only thing is that right now I am having a really good time, in the sense that my body is healthy, my mind is simple, and that matters. That matters to each one of us. Each day, how you are passing about each day. So I feel, just like Mother Sri Aurobindo also say, that thought and imagination is a power. So it's like a tool. Thought is like a tool that is given to us. Now the same tool, which is, for example, a knife, I can either use it to murder someone, or I can use it to chop vegetables and do a langar for someone, right? So thoughts are not a problem. The problem is our repetitive, obsessive patterns that we are stuck in, and that we are not even aware that we are operating from those patterns. So regarding my health, and what I learned about the mind is, first of all, the regular ordinary human mind that we have is a very chattery monkey mind. We all know that. The moment we sit for meditation, we know the status of the mind, how jumpy it is from time to time. Even for 2 minutes, if we, for example, right now we sit and say, okay, for 2 minutes I'm going to keep my mind to the breath. You will see that in those 2 minutes, your thoughts will take you in so many different directions. So we know the regular monkey chattery mind. Now, the process is that we have to tame this monkey mind, so that I can have a tool in my hand which is sharp, intelligent, and I can put it to use whenever necessary. But when it is not necessary, then I put it in the pocket. Usually the mind is using us, because we have no control over our thoughts. So coming and thoughts are coming and they are just like too much. And I can't stop that default machine. It's almost like that. So I have a tool, but the tool is ruling me at the moment. So what I understand through my own journey and further experiences is that it's very crucial to come back to our true nature and tame the monkey mind, to bring the mind to the present moment, either with breath or coming back to the bodily sensations, coming back to the here and now, again and again, because the mind is habituated to pull you in all the directions. It's a habit that we have for a long time, and just like any habit goes, that it takes time when I change now this habit. So we have to put in effort that the mind will go in all the directions. But now that I have suffered enough, because we do suffer trying to connect the dots in the head, we suffer a lot, and till even then we remain empty handed. So if we have suffered enough, mentally, emotionally, believing in those stories, then I will be compelled that now it is high time for me to bring the mind home and keep it in the here and now, And I think this effort has to be done every moment, because the habitual tendency is to be scattered and run away. So this is what I realize, that the practice has to be for all of us, because if we don't do it on individual levels, then it goes to national level, and we have wars between countries because of no reason. So it can really take bad shapes.
So you're talking about being in the here and now. What technique can you suggest for us to be mindful and to live in the present and to be in the here and now? What do you suggest?
So I think masters have suggested infinite possibilities. There are infinite number of tools, but currently I am very interested in very simple techniques with masters like Thich Nhat Hanh, Jetsunma, Tenzing Palmo, all the Buddhist teachers, they recommend, which is just to bring the mind to the breath. And when mind is with the breath, clinging to the breath, and with the rising and falling of the tummy as you go about clinging to the breath, then you are in the here and now. And even if there are thoughts of past, future, present happenings running in the head, which there would be, you can look at them that yes, this is happening. So a part of you, like a parallel consciousness, is anchored in the here and now. And a surface part is going here and there because it is habituated. But this part, through which you bring the mind again and again with the breath and rooted in the here and now, this generates an energy of mindfulness. So this is what Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully shares, that when we are mindfully in the present moment, it's not that you can't think about things of past, future things. Definitely thinking would be going on a surface level. But with this mindfulness, which is rooted in the present moment, you generate a different vibration with which you can now take care of the anxiety and panic and worry, all that arises in identifying with the surface consciousness. So this is how, like a mother cradles a loving, a crying child. So mindfulness is an energy which can cradle the energy of fear. When we are in fear, panic, anger is coming, jealousy is coming. So if a part of me is rooted in the anchor, in the anchor of present here and now, with the breath and coming back to the body, then things can really change. I think then we really can be magicians, turning our anger into compassion, turning our jealousy into maybe something beautiful. We don't have to run away from these emotions.
Yeah, so, talking about emotions, some emotions can be really powerful. Emotions of fear or emotions of anger or, anxiety or worry for your family, or, these are all born from attachments. I remember you saying that there are three causes of suffering. That first is attachment, second is aversion, and the third is ignorance of the true nature of reality. So, but it's so difficult. I think even maybe in the modern day and age, maybe it's even more difficult. I don't know, but or maybe it's always difficult to kind of detach from the things that you're most emotional about, such as the people you love or something that you're very passionate about. So how does one create that kind of disconnect? I mean, is it just by going with the breath that we create that space? And in that case, does it require like a lot of practice to get to that point?
I think with anything, I would have to be love in whatever I'm doing. So if I'm convinced that bringing the mind to the breath and being in the here and now is not that interesting, I don't benefit from it, Okay. It may happen, then I would not be able to put the necessary effort and have true benefit out of it. So that's why I was talking about, if I have suffered enough. Those of us who have suffered enough, running after where the mind wants to take them again and again, if we have suffered enough, then I will be compelled to bring the mind to the present moment and have the simplicity and joy of the present moment. So this is how I get, first of all, convinced and compelled. And whenever I'm compelled that yes, this is a nice thing for me to do and I enjoy doing it, bringing the mind to the present, then nobody has to convince me. I'm self-motivated to put effort. For example, if I'm beginning to learn to play guitar, right? And I see that whenever I play guitar, I feel such an intimate bond with myself. no matter it's difficult, but I enjoy this bond with myself. Then nobody has to tell me, oh, practice for 10 minutes, or you haven't practiced today. Nobody has to tell me, right? I am in love with the instrument and I enjoy the bond, that intimacy it gives me. So I think our practice has to be something like that. If I'm not in love with my practice, and if there are things still that I think that they are more important than this boring practice that I'm doing, then it's better that I run towards those things and get convinced first. So first of all, that thing. And the other is, you are talking about how do we take care of these attachments that are there, from time to time. I think one of the masters, Rupert Spira, his talks are discourses, so discourses are available on YouTube. So he says very beautifully, uses very interesting example, that imagine that you are an actor and you go out and play a role in a theater. And now one day you are coming back and you are so overwhelmed with the script, and because you have forgotten that you are the actor, you are not the role. And you're talking to a friend about your problems and miseries and sufferings, and that friend is saying, but you are the actor, you were just playing a role. So that friend helps you to disrobe from that character. And the moment you disrobe from that character, you suddenly awaken to yourself, oh wow, I am the actor, always I was the actor. So that was just a script. I don't have to take it too seriously. So that's the importance of realizing our true nature. Since we were talking of 3 root poisons: attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And ignorance is considered to be the basic root poison. Because when I don't know who I am, then I get attached to things and people and situations in my life. So like they say that it's not only for 2-3 sadhu like people that they have to gain realization in this life. Self-realization is a necessity for each one of us. Otherwise we cannot have a good human life. We really suffer.
Right.
And once I disrobe, once I know that these are just the roles I play and I'm far beyond the roles I play, then I can play the role, immerse myself deeply, and yet remain detached from the roles. Because now I know who I truly am. That's the power of knowing our true nature.
So when it comes to dealing with traumatic experiences, and you've been through a lot of difficult phases yourself, medical setbacks, I think the whole world has gone through this phase of COVID. We've all faced some kind of trauma in this past 2 years, or we know somebody who has. It's a universal grief. We've all kind of coming out of that process now, or probably many of us are still in it. How does one heal from these kind of experiences?
I think we connect to each other when we are in pain. So when I am in pain because of my disease, or maybe I lost a loved one, that's a point of connection that, oh, now I know how it feels when one loses a loved one. Now I know. And before that, we were just living in our shelled houses. People die, people do get diseases, but that's not happening with me. It happens to somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's how we keep ourselves walled and maybe protected, we think, right? But sooner or later, we all lose loved ones. Sooner or later, we have this body which from time to time manifests diseases of all kinds. And when it comes to me, now I am in pain, I am in suffering. I think if we take it in this attitude that now this is my chance to connect with how others suffer when they go through cancer, or when they go through loss of a loved one or something like that. I think this moment can be a beautiful opportunity to open ourselves, our hearts, which we have locked, in our own safe zones. So in Buddhist meditation, especially Tibetan Buddhism, they have a very beautiful technique which I mention from time to time. It's called Tonglen. And It's about recognizing what you are feeling. So you come to your body, you feel the panic or fear or loss or grief that you're feeling, that yes, I am feeling like this, and now I know how people feel when they are grieving. This is how they feel. So what you do is you inhale their pain and suffering with the in breath, and with the exhaling breath you wish them simplicity and joy and contentment of the present moment. And with this you heal yourself, and with this you also send out a healing wish and prayer for everyone out there. So I think this is a very high attitude in which we can, right attitude in which we can take our own pain and suffering in order to open the doors of our hearts.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's an old practice of compassion and using your pain to add value and to create something positive in the world.
Yeah.
So you use your own suffering to connect with others' suffering, and then you wish, simplicity and spirituality for everybody, for the whole world.
Yeah.
When we talk about spirituality, a lot of teachers also say that without divine grace nothing moves, right? And you also said this, that it was with grace that you feel you've come out of this process. So but on the other hand, we talk about free will and we talk about doing our karma. So how do you reconcile the role of free will versus God's grace and one's fate? In India we call it kismat. So how far are we really free to take action, and how far are we kind of puppets in the divine story?
It's a very difficult question actually, but my thoughts on it are, so I see I never knew about this term called free will unless I once had a practical experience of, oh, this is where I have free will. So what was happening that when I was being diagnosed with cancer and I was doing some inner work on myself, I was becoming more and more conscious of my inner movements. So suddenly I saw a story arising in my head. Like all of us have stories in the head about this situation, that person, my own self. The moment the story is arising in my head, I'm looking at it and I say, I have a choice whether to buy into this story or to not buy into the dictates, to ignore the story. And when I ignore the story, then I have the possibility to bring the mind with the breath in the present moment and have the joys, whatever the present moment has to offer. So I think free will, in one of the ways in which I can talk about free will is this one, that when we slowly become conscious of our own inner stories in the head and inner movements, then every time we see that now I have a choice whether I buy into this story or I don't buy because I have done that enough. So that is the point where we have some breathing space between the stories in the head and the one who is watching. So I think this free will is definitely there, definitely, the more and more we become conscious of it. On the other hand, in Savitri, for example, Sri Aurobindo's epic poem, where he talks about the whole of human journey, he shares that nothing is by chance. And he shares why it is so, because Purusha and Prakriti, who are one, Purusha is our witnessing consciousness, in one way we can say, this consciousness that makes us see a thought, see a feeling. And Prakriti is the movement. So thoughts are Prakriti, feelings are Prakriti, situations of life are also Prakriti, on which we have no control. So he says that the pact that was signed was that Prakriti was given a dominant hand, that okay, you will create the situations and through that consciousness will grow. And that's why we have these events which appear like chance events, but when we look back at them in retrospect, we see, wow, how did that happen? And it really turned my life and transformed my life, when we look back in retrospect. So I think I feel that there is actually nothing by chance, that there is a role given to Prakriti where Purusha grows through the movements of Prakriti. Whatever life situations are, we grow in consciousness through them. But then parallelly, paradoxically, we also have free will, where the more and more we become conscious of it, so Purusha comes forward, the more we become conscious of our own inner movements, then we have a choice whether to buy into our old habitual patterns or not to buy into them and create a new life for us, a conscious life for us. So I think maybe it's confusing, but yeah, it's quite puzzling for many of us.
No, the reason is because there is another new age movement, or rather, it's actually probably an old movement that says the Purusha came first, the thought came first, and then the Prakriti was created. So everything happened because there was first that seed of that thought, or there was that consciousness. So the consciousness, does the consciousness create the circumstance, or does the circumstance create to the growth of consciousness, or maybe it's both? Like you're saying, it's a complex.
So with Mother and Sri Aurobindo, we see that they talk about that, just like when we talk about Sat Chit Ananda. So Chit is the consciousness. And Sri Aurobindo couples Chit with Shakti. Sat, Chit Shakti and Ananda. So who came first, we cannot say, because the two, consciousness and Shakti, Purusha and Prakriti, they appear like two different ones, but they are actually originating from one only. The source is one. So in Savitri also they say the two who are one. So it's almost like ruminating who came first, like Murgi or Anda, So we'll always be puzzled because the limited mind cannot understand that. But definitely consciousness is prime, and then everything arises, the material world arises out of that consciousness. I think that's what we are going towards. Even science, physics, they are, for example, they are trying to find this God particle, where it seems that in one day I will have a particle in my hand which is responsible for generating consciousness. I feel that there is a lot of human arrogance there and stupidity, because consciousness is creating the matter. Matter is not creating consciousness. So we will never have a particle which is responsible for creating consciousness. So it's quite a tricky affair, which is very fascinating.
But it's interesting how so much of spiritual pursuit is about first understanding the duality and then coming to terms with the non-duality. It's like loving and letting go. So going outward, coming inward. There's always this constant movement of two opposite kinds of activities happening. So you're moving out and you're moving in. You're suffering and then you're healing. So without that, there's no growth. You cannot grow in consciousness unless you do both these actions, unless you go through the process. At least that's what it appears to me. And like you said, when we reach the end of our tether, when we are suffering, that is when we actually take the step to heal or to understand what's going on, what's happening here. Yeah. Thanks, Monica, for being here and for sharing your thoughts. And if there's any last words you'd like to leave our viewers with about your journey, and as a woman and as a scientist and as somebody who's now on the spiritual path, if there's something you'd like to share with us to keep in mind about our purpose and waking up to our truth.
So first of all, I must congratulate and thank you, Ekta, for doing beautiful work, and thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. So wishing you all the best in expressing what you beautifully manifest.
Thank you
and
so much.
Secondly, the only thing, the prayer that comes out from my heart is that may we all walk towards our true nature and put in a little bit of effort, because we put in so much of effort everywhere. We are putting effort all the time. If we can take out time, if we have suffered enough, if we can put effort in trying to really tame our minds, the beautiful tools that we have been given, thoughts, feelings, and mind, if we can just put some effort, because we really don't know that we are kings and we don't have to live like beggars. We can be living like kings. So may we all find our true nature, realize our true nature, and really live to the true purpose of this life, human life. So that's a prayer, I think. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your prayer. And I hope our viewers enjoyed listening to this conversation. Join us again on eShe World. And thanks, Monica, for being here. See you again soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.